Alright, next up is the Terawatt forest after the whatever happened with the calamari thing.
Hey, we seem to have stepped into Pandora.
Zephyr, you sounded like a Dalek for a second there.
Like they said, interference because of energy emission from the rocks. So we
And
kinda
yes,
are on
given,
Pandora, Jova, to an extent.
and yes, given that this came 2 years after Avatar, it is very possible
Yes,
that's what they were going
absolutely.
for.
We even had the floating islands for the second level, so yes.
Look, in typical James Cameron fashion, when he made a big box office juggernaut, everyone wanted a piece of that action, basically. Now, I'd say the copycats were a bit more subtle with Avatar than with Titanic, essentially, but you still saw a lot of stuff come up. Oh, stuff involving aliens, and oh, the blue scale. You can't forget the blue scale. Like, it's got just that right color scheme that I'm definitely chalking this one up to Pandora. Not that that's automatically a bad thing, mind you. Inspiration ain't the worst thing.
So many
It's
balls.
just a matter of when Hollywood feels like that's all they're doing, essentially. Like, oh God, I remember after Titanic, everyone was trying to do their own doomed lovers story, and oh God, let's not forget how Michael Bay threw his hat in the ring with Pearl Harbor.
It still took a while actually for a remake of a Poseidon. You would think that it would come, relatively soon in order to ride on the success of a Titanic, but no, they had to wait quite a bit.
The funny thing is, we got two Poseidon remakes back to back. One in 2005
Alright,
and one in 2006.
Here's the morph ball. It's literally just the morph ball that conducts electricity. Samus Aran is calling. She wants, her chosen technology back.
When did this game come out again?
2011.
2011. Did
So someone at Insomniac really didn't like of how Other-M did the morph ball.
I mean, Other-M had problems. I don't recall how it did the morph ball being
clearly
was the whole thing in general, like you stuck doing 3D movement with the D-pad.
Clearly, what we needed was Ratchet having to say "the baby" every 5 seconds.
The sad thing is, I actually did like the idea of 3D gameplay motion in Samus that was third person. But like Boobs mentioned, some of them not thought, oh yeah, let's keep that to only the D-pad, and it's not like we have a connection to the remote that has an analog stick. Oh wait.
I don't even know if Team Ninja has to be blamed or the actual, person that was part of the Metroid franchise at the time, because Team Ninja clearly was trying to use the same camera angles and skeletal animations and commands from the Ninja Gaiden games that they were developing at the time. So,
and it's not like they couldn't make alternate controls. There are plenty of Nintendo Wii games that basically had, a variety of ways, from like just the Wii Remote to the Wii Remote plus Nunchuck, if you wanted to. That said, though, yeah, that was literally the morph ball. Like, what the heck?
That's just a gimmick for these particular set of levels. As in, you connect to the circuits, by literally being part of that. Also, I think this particular enemy that we just faced and we're facing now, this one that actually powers up Crystal, if it shows up again, it would be like one more time, but otherwise it's gone for the rest of the game. Like, to be fair, we had enemies exclusive to stages beforehand, in order to give every stage a sense of uniqueness, so that's not too, big of a deal. But if I recall correctly, this is the least used enemy in the entire game, as in common one,
Yeah, okay, it's not just the fact that they're exclusive to this world, that's common, but that there's so few of them, according to you.
You can chalk it up
moves,
to the...
not boss fights.
You can chalk it up to, in-universe, the rules that Emphemeris just, transplanted these creatures, so they're not native to the place, so there's just like one or two of them, and, I can't believe that. Suspension of disbelief and all. It's just that on a gameplay department, it feels kind of a waste to create such an intricate model and, animation set.
Weird. So, did that morph ball power-up ever show up in a future Ratchet game?
No. Again,
in fact,
remember,
did any of these power-ups really come back?
Not really. Again, the only one that is obviously a returning one is the slingshot, but has been a staple since the first game,
So we can say Samus sued them into never bringing that power-up back, but okay, all joking aside, I guess I can more so chalk that up to the fact that obviously these power-ups were, made with the team-ups in mind, and, since aside from a little bit of co-op in some later installments, this format of gameplay never really came back.
No, it didn't. Like he said, I wouldn't have minded another shot, either as a Ratchet Clank spin-off, or, like he said, for something else like Jak and Daxter. Again, this type of co-op formula really fits well a lot of Sony IPs, even, for example, stuff like Killzone, maybe. Okay, Killzone works better as a, first person, but I don't know, maybe Uncharted. The problem with that, it would be that it would require the franchise to go back to having more fantastical kind of route, and Naughty Dog sure doesn't love that anymore. So,
well, considering that Samus didn't have anything to do for like 6 years, she had to do something, so she just shoot someone.
She was busy in Smash, and also potentially courting the Doom Marine on the side.
Again, the thing that boggles my mind is that there was no party mode for this game. Like, it feels like it's begging for a party mode. And yeah, I know that sounds a bit weird, seeing as how in this day and age, sometimes party mode only games are kind of the bane of gamers' existence, but this was at a time where we could at least be relatively certain that it would have a nice campaign to go with it at least, which, this game did. And again, like we mentioned, there are segments like the taxi tilting.
Is still missing. Well, to answer your question, I think I did answer this question before, and Jova, but keep in mind, like I said, it's the same way you have to treat a Joseph Ferris kind of game, because those have the same principle too, where they have wacky, particular minigames, but they're literally one time off specifically for, the thrill of a level. Nothing more, nothing less.
The difference I feel here, though, is that a lot of these segments feel like things that would literally be fit for mini-games elsewhere, whereas, yeah, Joseph Ferris tends to do a lot more plot-specific stuff, which in that case,
Uh-oh.
I get why it's just a campaign game. Uh-oh. I'm a-firing my lasers?
Doesn't have the time for it.
Uh-oh. Always a bigger fish.
So, stay clear out of the tractor beam, please.
Omegatron, eh?
Gotta need to mash words that sound fancy and sci-fi, Jova.
Omegatron, or Decadillion, or Quantum Ray.
Or Unobtainium, but apparently if you say that, people laugh at it, so I don't know what's the difference with that.
Yeah,
well, the second movie, that's kind of no longer really a thing.
No, okay, to be fair, I don't know if that was actually, answering to fan complaint, or James Cameron just simply wanting to do something else on his own because he wanted to do the Save the Whales kind of plot. But I can tell that when he did the game, that the whole Unobtainium thing was still, the fulcrum of the plot, despite being a prequel and all. So, I don't know, there was a kind of, still of an idea. It's just that I do believe that a lot of times, not even calling sci-fi enthusiasts, just people who watch the movie in general, just thought that the name sounded too silly and it feels a bit arbitrary. I wouldn't even call it, just mindless, just arbitrary, because that happens also, for example, with Star Wars, where some fictional names are perfectly fine, but others just sound oh so too silly for the audience. Like, I get it. The fucking junkie, drug dealer that's called Sleaze Bagano in episode 2, I get it, because that's a bad pun that's worth of, of a bomb from the Ace Attorney localization school of thought. But, just as many, are like Kid Fisto, doesn't really seem to be that kind of, far out, if you ask me.
When it comes to people dunking on the Unobtainium name, I do agree that that's them going to overkill. However, I think I know why people dunk on that, and to this I posit a theory that, in a sense, it's more a byproduct of people just overall having backlash on the film. Okay, let me put it like this. If Avatar had been a film that relatively aged better and wasn't something people made fun of, I think people would at most just shrug at unobtainium because, shock of all shocks, unobtainium is not a term original to Avatar. Yeah, that's another thing.
We mentioned that when we did the core.
Realize.
It's really just a an inside joke that sci-fi enthusiasts tend to have when creating a fictional mineral. Literally that.
Like, okay, as controversial as it is, it's similar to my take on the whole Sonic Unleashing from '06. Oh yes, it's terrible, and rightly torn apart. But I'd be willing to bet that people wouldn't have even had as much a problem with that, or even the kiss, if the game had actually been good, because we've seen plenty of other couples where it's a human with an animal, but people tend to be okay with those because it's in something that's actually well written or, better received or whatnot. I'm not saying I would agree with Sonic X Elise, but I've always taken the utter, and I do mean absolute, bitter backlash that got as a byproduct of how bad the product is. In Avatar's case, I do feel like, again, if Avatar had just grown to not be something that was laughed at more, I think people would probably not dunk on the unobtainium term as much. Now, if I were to maybe look at the stance of somebody who just legit doesn't like it, I guess in their mind it's like, James Cameron, this master of lore and storytelling, couldn't think of a better name than unobtainium, which, maybe, but I don't know. It's never bugged me too much. Like, it's something I do raise an eyebrow at, since I do think he could have maybe come up with a better name, but other than that, look, Avatar has plenty of problems. I don't think calling the material unobtainium is one of them, though.
Not to mention, it also falls into the same problem of a couple of other English-specific terms where a lot of, English speakers mention, how specific a thing is, while in other languages in the world, it's usually kept the same, or, in a similar context, so the pun is kind of lost and it's just a fancy term. For example, in my country, it's just called like that, so the whole unobtainable pun that is intrinsic in the name is just maybe a hint of that, or, as it's done in my country, explained that it's a joke for a specific language, but nothing more than that.
Could it be, perhaps, that that's what James Cameron had in mind when he called it unobtainium, to make it just that applicable to the whole world of language?
Not really. Alright, go. We fight in another one. James Cameron, along with a couple of other directors, first things first about audience for domestic territory, so America. Not even to say that it's a bad thing, mostly because that's usually where the movies sell more. So that's the logical outcome of what he would think about. Even if I guess in that case, even if it's making just a complete different product, but is in case still a complete fictional setting, despite having parallels to the whole taming the Great Wild West kind of period.
To be fair, if we were to complain about directors focusing on the domestic market, we might as well be complaining about Bollywood directors only doing something that makes sense in India.
Well, besides that, Jova, you know me. I'm a firm believer that art should be judged by that and not by money. So.
Oh, of course, yeah. But yeah, no, fair points about James Cameron there. I will give him credit, though, like, against many odds, he's now made Avatar into, once again, a respected franchise with Way of Water.
Well, we'll have to see how Fire and Ash actually performs. We're recording this, like, roughly a month and a half before it actually comes out. So we'll have to see, if that manages to continue the streak. Like, Way of Water sold still a lot, but not as much as the first movie, admittedly. Anyway, we reached the camp here, where this particular Tharpod, I don't think he's voiced by Patrick Warburton, make an impression, but he sounds almost like it. It's definitely not Richard Steven Horowitz.
It was like, what did I just step in? Oh, that's just wonderment. We got more.
Oh, I do enjoy a good science exhibit, but we have more pressing matters.
Not sure what Clank was doing with that expression. I couldn't tell if he was trying to look exasperated or just wiping his eyes.
Yeah.
Of course, that was a long time ago.
I wonder if maybe this is one of those games where the characters are in real time so they can end up just doing
God,
random
Ratchet,
idle
your skin
actions.
was so
Jesus.
glistening.
Ratchet, you gotta... Ratchet, tone it down with the hair glisten there.
It's impossible to cross without a guardian bot, but maybe you can find a way to power it up. Right this
Sure.
way, right this way. Wonderment abounds.
Uh,
I feel like I've heard this voice from somewhere, but I can't put
If
my
I recall
finger on
correctly,
it.
IMDb only credits Richard Horowitz for most of the Tharpod NPCs, so I don't know if this one is specifically voiced by someone else.
It would be interesting if that is Richard and he's just actually doing a much different voice for once.
Which would be a bit out of his comfort zone, you know, even if he has to do just the regular voice that he has, instead of being the more high-pitched, it still has a very unique timbre compared to this.
Granted, there are some voice actors who are able to, like, completely change their voices to the point where you wouldn't know it's them, so... But that being said, if that were the case, what a random character to do it with.
Alright, it's time to learn something. Shut up.
Of scientific wonderment. I am Doctor Frumpus Croid.
The dude making a theme park or something with educational rides like this?
Kinda. Not necessarily for entertainment, but for education purposes.
How delightful.
I think of it as kinda Jurassic Park. Also, hey, we're trying to learn something here. Fucking mini Cthulhu wanting a piece of a pie.
Well, now you have to learn how to survive!
Clearly.
First up on our tour of discovery is the Rosa Fields mining outpost. From the prompter.
Yes, you're right. Eons ago,
I don't remember who the two... Okay, Robin Akindoll's voices Dr. Croid. I don't remember who voices Nebo.
Huh, speaking of someone who puts on quite a different voice...
Like I said, Robin Akindoll is pretty much carrying most of Insomniac on his fucking back, because, remember, he was also Captain's Leg in the Fuse Future games, and he's gonna come back as the main villain of Rift Apart,
So he was like the equivalent to Brendan O'Brien back in the original trilogy of Crash Bandicoot with Naughty Dog.
Pretty much.
these protomorphic energy repositories were designed to safely distribute
Yeah,
kinetic energy
yeah,
from
that,
the comet
that sounds
shards.
like school.
However, the research
So,
What?
here's an interesting thing. The entire process of, the research for Dr. Winkelmeyer and Nebo, Dr. Winkelmeyer and Dr. Croid, comes from a comet that accidentally, landed on this planet.
Now try powering up that shard using the energy repository.
And in order to do so, in order to actually proceed, we need to play a bit of the in the dark levels from the Crash games, but with a bit of a twist. Instead of having the insect, providing light or the Aku Aku mask for the first game, you need to have this comet shard being properly charged, which will actually have these plants being retracted, and actually, carried around, there you go, through the next portion of the level. Obviously, it's more of a case he will also get attacked by you, but it's clearly one case where a guy actually has to carry the thing, while another is putting the shards here to keep the energy 100%, or shooting the enemies. Because otherwise, if you're in the dark, this happens.
Well, cried.
Yeah, stay in the light, please.
Also, I see you guys had to find work after the latest Crash Bandicoot game.
To be fair, there was one in Jack's mentor in the first Jack and Daxter game that was a deliberate, callback.
Oh, which one was that?
The first Jack and Daxter, the house of, I forgot his name, the sage that is the mentor of Jack and Daxter, as one of the Crash Bandicoot carnivorous plants.
Right, yeah. Remember, folks, this was in 2011. At the time, as far as Crash and...
Well, no, the first Jack and Daxter was the launch title for the PS2.
I'm talking about in regards to this game.
Well, these look fairly different, but go on.
My point is, like, at this time, of course, this was back when Crash fans thought the franchise was dead because of Mind Over Mutant, which was in 2008.
What was the
And that was
last
just
Crash
3
game with
years.
that Carnivorous Francis? Insanity?
Yeah, I think Twinsanity. I don't recall them being in Crash of the Titans or Mind Over Mutant. So
What-
shoot, these guys really did have to find work. It kind of makes sense since Twinsanity kind of acted as a farewell to some of the mooks, most notably the skunk who was finally fed up with it.
Lovely. Also, yes, the mini Cthulhu still wants a piece of that pie.
Sample has reached maximum energy threshold.
That's that hate light. Not unheard of, but interesting.
I mean, as we noted, as we seen in Eternal Sonata, there are those flowers who do actually blossom only in the night because it's so romantic and purple and stuff. Also, some plants do have a degree of bioluminescence, so they thrive a bit more in the darkness, just as much as in the light, but you know, it's not really that common.
Still better than those uber-specific, uber-delicate flowers from Eternal Sonata. Ones that apparently only grow in a toxic-filled cemetery.
Right, the simile flower. Right, I forgot, because they needed the simile water from the spring, it was guarded by the cemetery guardian.
Who we killed just for some stupid flowers that a girl really, really wanted.
I mean, that's RPG logic, baby. Toby Fox was not there yet to tell us, you know, that we should feel sad about it.
Specifically about flowers, too, of course.
Definitely.
Alright, just a little bit more.
Well, that's the thing. It's kinda... Okay, the level is a bit deceptive. It makes you think that you're finally done. But then it tells you, no, just a bit more. And then does that 2 more times.
They really liked this light gimmick, I guess.
To be fair, like I said, it's pretty cool that the game is kind of almost never stopping with having, you know, its bag of tricks, and I do kind of appreciate for it. Clank,
I guess in it...
Clank, for fuck's sake, do something, bro!
I am doing something, Ratchet. I'm pulling something.
You're just
In the
jumping
wrong
around like an
direction.
idiot!
So,
Well, hey, the pulling, the jumping does kill the enemies.
Whatever you say.
so,
Go on, Joe.
so, you know, it's funny you mention that. If, in theory, you could arguably just play this in one go, and for the most part, you could consider it all a continuous adventure. Like
That's how it's
technically
pretty
on
much
this one world
labeled,
going
yes.
from it, yeah.
Also,
I'd
for
say
this
it's-
section, now the comet shard is on a moving platform, so you need to stay in the line when it actually meets, so you don't have to pull it anymore, but you have to follow its pace.
Okay then. So, in a way, it's kind of like Twinsanity, just minus the open world sections that Twinsanity
Pretty much,
had.
it's a far more linear experience. But like I said,
The one that-
you can replay any stage from the main menu just by starting a new session from a specific point that you want, as long as you and your friends or the computer that you choose are fine with it.
Curious, if you do that, does the game then just continue automatically to the level after that level as if you
Yes,
were playing from that section?
Yes.
Cool.
The only thing that really stays the same is the profile that you have, and in that specific character profile, in the specific profile for you, the player, the characters level up are permanent. So if you say you have a session where you level up Ratchet halfway through and you get all the arsenal by the halfway point of the game, but when you decide to start over, Ratchet will have all the upgrades and weapons by that point. So it's entirely possible, theoretically, for a veteran player to carry around, you know, a pack of newbies from the get-go.
Nice. Seems like a fair enough trade, you know, if you put in the work, you might as well
It's
be
also
able
for the
to
sake of, you know, not
when
forcing
go
you
back.
to, you know, start from the beginning every single time. Like I said, the trade-off is that if you want to max out all the characters, you need to actually max for all 4 of them separately. It encourages replayability to an extent, but it is a bit admittedly a chore.
I think what you want to do in this sort of game is, like, give more different interactions or variations based off of who you play as, because otherwise it seems like all you mainly get is maybe some different banter, which
Pretty much.
already what's going off of Ratchet and Clank is probably going to have to be generic banter for the most part, so...
Alright, the
Yeah.
good news is that we finally managed to put the comet shard in place, so hopefully we managed to actually power up the Guardian.
Hurrah!
Searching patent archives for Dr. Croid Guardian bots and Excelsior!
Kronk, I don't think this is an IKEA furniture.
Activate your friendly Guardian bot.
Apparently it's Marvel.
Power supply.
Yeah, it's kind of like a sentinel. Alright. Pull the lever, Clank!
Alright now, step 2. Oh wait, looks like I forgot to read the disclaimer. Before proceeding
Oh
to step
no.
1, be sure to
Always read the fine print.
to ensure it does not boot up in murder mode. Murder mode?
Now look what you've done. Hang tight, rookies.
It programmed the robot to have a murder mode.
The back of the ship.
Well,
Think we have
hey,
a problem.
I don't know what plan you cooked up to save us, but can you cook a little faster, please?
Got it. Stand clear, rookies. I'm firing down the cranial mood reshifter.
Oh, there you go, that's fine.
Close one.
See, similar to Robocop 3, now the Guardian is as docile as a puppy.
Is on total lockdown. Dr. Croid must have set up safeguards to keep the collectors away.
So now remember that section with Hope as time in Final Fantasy 13 where he rides the Dreadnought? Let's do that, shall we?
The system should reset and restore
beautiful.
To be fair, no, the Guardian moves automatically, you just need to clear the obstacle is in the way. For example, this barrier.
Barrier.
Yes, destroy the robot child, please. Clank, it would be more appreciated if you actually started shooting at something.
I'm a pacifist, Ratchet.
God damn it.
Then why are you in the turret?
Because because my programming deems it so.
Razor Moss!
The cool thing about this is that you can also start destroying everything about the environment and you gain a couple of balls for it. But again, you can tell that they're trying to make each set piece relatively unique despite everything, which is something that can be appreciated for a game like this much more than a traditional single-player experience where instead the gamer might feel like they're too much yanked and railroaded for it. Again, if anything, I will say this: these took the right lessons, not just from co-op games like Gauntlet or even Diablo, but also from Half-Life. Again, this is a bit that I've taken to heart from Civ11's review from the first Half-Life game, but it is still true. The fact that Half-Life was very revolutionary for shooters. The first Unreal from Epic Games had already set up beat, the winds of change, but Half-Life was the big game changer in terms of presenting, scripting, voice acting, a compelling story, emotional drama and specific pace, instead of just being, adventures of, Doom Marine number 54 inside the, metal corridors. So there was something more to it, but unfortunately a lot of shooters took the wrong lessons out of it and became way too enamored with their story modes, to the point where the gameplay had to be sacrificed as a result. Like I said, it basically took until 2016 to have, that year's version of Doom from Bethesda spanking the ass of all the shooters back then and telling them the experience could actually be fast and fun again.
So, given that mostly it's been Ratchet talking to the old bots, I presume whichever character is the lead character will have things to say to them?
If I understand, yes. I've seen only a few videos about different co-op experiences, so the results have been kind of mixed. But for example, in a situation where all four are there, it's Ratchet the one that, for example, initiates a dialogue. But there are some moments in which another character will have a bit more of a priority in saying something about it, like for example Nefarious, if there's something specifically tied around killing robots.
My theory, from what I've seen so far, is I presume it matters mostly which character is player 1 by default, and then maybe whichever character is in the lead with points later on, essentially. So, especially since I presume it would have to take into consideration team-ups that don't involve Ratchet or Clank, essentially. Like, if you do Nefarious and Quark, basically, it would probably have to be Nefarious who talks, unless they really just have Ratchet talk the whole time, which, nah, even for this game, I feel like at the very least they would make sure to, not break the immersion to that degree.
Also, if you notice that there's a bit of dead space going on outside of the HUD, the health bar of the Guardian is also represented by that bar in the middle. Not sure why we have both that and the health bar in the HUD on the top left. It kind of feels a bit redundant when you think about it, but I guess the developers were afraid that people will not get, oh shit, the best kind of, visual indication of what was going on. I don't mind, it just feels, like you said, redundant. Anyway, time for a robot v robot fight where you need to help. Clank, the target is right there, dude!
I told you, Ratchet, I will not fire.
You're literally firing on it right now!
Yeah, but I'm not exactly hitting it, am I? See? I can fire stuff and not kill things.
Who made this AI companion?
Apparently the greatest mind meant to protect us all, according to Kraken Time.
Well, that will be Orvus. I was former talking about Out of Universe. Like he said, this is very similar to Tails in Sonic 2, where occasionally only helps and most of the time just dies.
Anyway, this giant base is giving me some Resistance vibes.
A bit, admittedly. This was 2011, so the same year I was Resistance 3, so... Oh shit.
Another one.
Another
Race
one.
to the top. See? Look, you can actually aim at it, Clank. Well done.
Uh-oh. How many of these fucking things are there?
What is this? Rise of the New Guardians or something?
Yes, that's all what we really truly need from this experience. The heroes, the final boss being actually Snowflame.
You know the sad thing about that comic? Fans like the villain more than the heroes.
Well, to be fair, those were the early issues. I bothered to read a couple of the other ones, including, for example, the more recent one that Linkara reviewed. And I argue there is some degree of merit. Inherently, the idea of a team that is, supposed to have literally the goal of spreading their genes, the best genes in the world, but instead being formed around by people who, were representations of political, disturbance at the time, mostly the HIV crisis, for example, or, not being straight normative, there is actual merit to it, and some of the other issues actually, try to actually, have more depth to it. But anyway, new vlog from Dr. Binkelmeyer, sorry, Doctor Frumpus. Specifically number 4.
Diary 004.
80 years.
50 years since Mr. Dinkles was taken, and my rescue plan has backfired in a most disastrous way. The directive matrix that restricts
You kept your sanity, right?
has been deleted. The onboard surveillance camera shows that this was no accident. This was Nevo's doing. This is twice he has taken.
No, the guy who's betrayed you at almost every step of the way.
Well,
also sabotaged you?
maybe he thought it was, just a mistake or something, but no, he got basically
Emphemeris
confirmation.
grows under Nevo's control. He's modifying it for
I'll give him
interplanetary
credit. If
travel,
he still had faith in him
extending his
after
reach
50
further and
years,
further into
that's
the cosmos.
a big bond of trust they must have
Like I
had.
said, also, the game is, not done with the surprises, so keep this information that is being fed to you in mind.
And to convince the Tharpods to stop my old friend at all costs.
Watch the plot twist turn out to be that the Doctor's the villain and he's just gone insane and Nevo's actually the good guy.
I thought about that too, that Croid was actually secretly the villain all along, especially because we still haven't met him, we need to find him, that's the entire point of where we are in Terawatt Forest. But the game has something else in mind, that is still tied to what you're seeing, so don't worry about that.
All in due time, I guess.
Yeah, we're not far from the end anyway.
Every exploratorium project requires one thing: power.
This station is equipped with a sophisticated AI we named the Steward. Quite helpful should a Tharpod find him or herself without their companion creature.
See if you can restore
I
the
smell
power. Reset
foreshadowing.
the system and remove the lockdown.
Alright then. So for this next portion of the level, we have to play janitor. Not in a sense of cleaning up, but being electrical operators. We need to fix the diffusers and so on.
Alright, Jim Carrey, get in here. We need the cable guy.
What about Larry, the cable guy?
Nah. I hear he's too busy working on Jingle All the Way 2, of all things.
And Amadea Christmas. Were those released around the same time?
Hey, he was in that?
Yes, he played the not conservative, but the father of the guy Medea's daughter is married. Medea's niece is married too.
I legit forgot he was in that movie. Christ.
His role is relatively minimal, but it's just a thing. So anyway, there you go. You're still using the vacuums. Again, we really have a mileage out of this. You need to put in screws inside the places and then activate the mechanism. It's relatively simple so far, but it will get more complex. I really like these puzzles.
Neat. Anyway, to answer your question, no. Medea Christmas was 2013, Jingle All the Way 2 was 2014.
Okay, so not still too long in terms of difference, but present nonetheless.
I still love the fact that WWE Studios decided, alright, we're making a sequel to Jingle All the Way 2. We're making a sequel to Jingle All the Way. Now, even if we can't get Arnold Schwarzenegger, we're WWE.
Well, that was actually the Fox Network who did that. Remember, Jingle All the Way is, technically now a Disney IP.
Well, okay. It was a combination of 20th Century Fox and WWE Studios because for some reason WWE were really into making movies. Most notably, I think, is that Killing Game movie. I forget its name. The one where people have ankle monitors or stuff that make them blow up or whatnot.
The Hunger Games.
I haven't seen that one. I have seen some WWE movies, but they're mainly the Marine ones.
Which also, I think, were part of the Fox network program.
Some of them were. The others, some of them were. Some of them were Sony.
Okay.
The best film associated with WWE is Oculus.
Hop in. Yeah, nice work. Hop in.
Okay, now I remember the name of the movie. It was The Condemned from 2007, which starred Stone Cold Steve Austin as the main protagonist.
My God.
And Vinnie Jones. I've seen that movie. It's
a thing.
movie.
Okay, get this, Tio. It's an ultra-violent movie that tries to speak against violence in the end.
I heard, sadly, this kind of, thing very recently, so I'm not too surprised. Again, hypocritical messaging about, stop violence while, showcasing a relatively violent environment. That's unfortunately not necessarily always hypocritical, but it's a symptom of a lot of, storytelling that tries to have a good message, but unfortunately runs, into that, even if they don't want to.
Oh, and just to add to the irony, that movie was made by Lionsgate. You know, the proprietors of the Saw franchise, as well as the WWE, a wrestling company. That's right, kids. Violence is wrong, so don't watch the Saw movies. Don't come to see wrestling. We are hereby closing our doors in the name of anti-violence.
Oh, it's kind of like, is that kind of like that, yeah, that message in Round to Rumble, where they say, fans made the real fans made the wrestling, or something. Where the rest of the movie is spending its entire time shitting on the fans, apparently.
Not quite. It's legit them just outright trying to speak against violence and all that. It rings hollow. Apparently it got a sequel. I have not seen that nor a review of it, but
again,
who knows?
I don't particularly care about wrestling movies to begin with, so...
oh, no.
You might get a little bit of enjoyment out of the Marine.
Oh, not to worry. The Condemned is not a wrestling movie. It just happens to star a wrestler. No.
Okay,
in reality,
let me put it this way. Outside of stuff like Suburban Commando, that kind of, still that kind of like, for example, Santa with Muscles with Hulk Hogan, I so don't care about it.
It's a movie where a wrestler somehow gets his ass kicked by a doctor constantly.
Oh, I've actually seen Suburban Commando.
Yeah, again, it's very, it's relatively known.
It's a rare example of a comedy that's unintentionally funny.
Yeah, I still like to ponder who in the, development team actually wrote down that Hulk Hogan's character, labels Afterburner as a space shooter, I don't know, I still don't know if it was supposed to be intentionally of him mistaking the thing, or the people who made the movie genuinely did not knew what Afterburner was about.
Well,
it sadly might be the latter, because the kids who introduced him to the arcade indulge in him calling it Dragus or whatever.
I wonder, I gotta say though, aside from the movie bombing, the wonder they never made a sequel to Suburban Commando. Because I think the sequel would have just probably been about Hogan's character's reputation being ruined because he just left the president for dead.
Yeah, that's another thing. The way Suburban Commando ends, while I guess it might, leave itself open to the possibility of future because it's still a space, opera kind of movie. The first movie was firmly set on Earth anyway, so if you wanted to continue that, you kind of needed to still have that grounded setting. But like what we've said, they kind of fucked up towards the end.
Like, when you think about it, the majority of that movie... when you think about it, the majority of that movie is basically a side quest. Just the main protagonist needs to do some stuff on Earth after his last main mission, which is a lot of stuff he shouldn't really have too much trouble with, given that he's from space and has all those crazy gadgets anyway.
To main station.
Alright, here's how it works. You reach these stations, you need to pull the lever again, and fire the connecting cables so that electricity is restored to that section. Do it like 2 more times, I think, and you're good to go. Again, we're literally playing maintenance.
Stand back.
Well, that was just rude.
Yeah, this particular enemy can potentially have a grab attack, but thankfully I tend to, you know, destroy them before they can be too much of a nuisance.
You ready, pal? Get ready, Ratchet.
I asked if you were ready, Clank. You don't need to tell me to get ready.
Just keeping you on your toes, Ratchet.
I have your back, Ratchet.
Clank, after this is over, we're gonna need to get your head a maintenance check.
Hey, get away from my pal.
Apparently even the body will have to be in check because the next game, Full Frontal Assault Rescue Force, still has Clank playable, potentially, if you want to play co-op, otherwise it's just, you know, Ratchet, potentially.
Ratchet,
But
my head no need check, although vocabulary systems require some repair.
But in order to fit him with the rest of the other characters, instead of having the proportions just, you know, potentially being wrong, or by having him, you know, still looking normal, but still big enough for Ratchet size, they literally bulk him up. It's only viewable if you in a cutscene if you don't play as him, but it's still very jarring nonetheless, you'll be able to see.
Goodness gracious. Is that the game where you feel like they didn't care, or is that later?
No, it's not. I don't really think it's a case where they did not care. More of a case that they did not have enough time and leisure money because they were supposed to actually rush it for the 10th anniversary of the franchise.
Okay, so which was the one where you said it feels like they just didn't care?
Like Quest for Booty to an extent. They were just experimenting, but with such a smaller scale.
Well, I was talking about one in the future. Like, yeah, Quest for Booty was the one we pretty much all agreed feels like they did not.
Well, I
care.
can tell that I don't really feel any of these, you know, really fit because with that description specifically. Because again, these definitely feel the kind of budget and developer effort they did.
All systems are operational.
So basically, overall, something that you feel is just more so due to crunch in later games.
Potentially, that and you know the way they were assigned to. I think I said it already, but if Full Frontal Assault Rescue Force had not been made, and instead more effort, you know, more actual time and money were spent into making into the Nexus to give it more content. Probably the fans will have had a better, you know, reception of the latter. Because again, I still think it's perfectly fine as a bite-sized adventure, but it may leave, you know, a bit of sour taste in someone's mouth because of how relatively short it is, you know, and the fact that it was pretty much the stopping point of the franchise until Rift Apart 10 plus years later. Because instead, okay, not necessarily 10, I think I think Into the Nexus was 2012, I think. Either 2012 or 2013, while Rift Apart was 2022. So roughly
2013, yeah.
So 9 years, okay. And in the middle they had to have the whole stupid thing about they reimagining the movie and then Insomniac just deciding to do superhero stuff instead, you know? So
I mean, okay, like, and yeah, when it comes to this game, we know for certain that a lot of this was executive mandate, so maybe that is also a factor of some of the other games in the future that we're seeing as lackluster, but yeah.
Oh, I can definitely tell that Full Frontal Assault Rescue Force was mandated to reach its deadline rather than, you know, because otherwise the gameplay shift for that, which does resemble, you will see more probably, but while it does resemble more traditional Ratchet & Clank game, it's heavily focused about turret defense. I know that it sounds very weird with me explaining it like this, but trust me, kind of makes sense when it actually, you actually see. It's very easy to make it click for you, but you'll be able
All
to
in
see
due
that.
time, then.
Yeah. So no, again, I think it's more of a case where maybe Into the Nexus is the one that was not fully, corporate mandated. As far as I remember, at the very least, it was roughly at the tail end of the PS3 era. So similar to Sly Thieves in Time, it was Sony scrounging up to have, the PS3 staying just relevant enough for people to care, while the PS4 was about to launch.
In my experience, typically if something's the last title in a series for a while, if not forever, that thing needs to either A, have been previously confirmed to be the end regardless of what's happening, or B, be amazing. Or,
Unfortunately,
C,
I can
just
tell you
avoid
that
controversy.
Into the Nexus ends with a sequel bait that people have to wait
Oh,
9
dear.
years. Remember? Well, okay, you've seen
Yeah.
seen videos about Rift Apart, right?
Yes. I
Well,
do know
the
that
way
Victor Part was following up on something.
Yeah, the way it starts is a follow-up to the sequel hook and what was at the end of Into the Nexus. Fans had to wait this long for that to happen, to the point where some people thought that they were not gonna do it because, with the whole reimagining thing, it felt like they were just going to turn a different leaf anyway, and maybe they thought that the franchise had become too bloated at that point.
And again, from what I've heard, Into the Nexus isn't particularly spotless either. Like, it may not be like the biggest
It's
abomination,
short.
but it does sound
That's the worst complaint. But that's the biggest complaint that you can chalk it up to the game. Really, story-wise, there is a decision that they do at the very beginning, but it's very, very spoilery. So you really have to wait until the first part of that to see.
basically what I'm saying is like, if a game or anything's gonna be the last installment unexpectedly, it needs to be very good for people to not end up blaming it for being the supposed killer of the franchise. Again, case in point, Crash Bandicoot Mind Over Mutant. Mind you, I don't even think that game was really good. I do think it has a lot of problems, but I do think, had there at least just been a new Crash game coming after it, and most people would have looked back on it and Crash to the Titans as, okay, that weird era for Crash, but nope. As far as we knew, that was it for the franchise because Mind Over Mutant didn't sell as well. Imagine.
It's kind of funny that the Cortex declaration of an evil maniac's gonna do, what an evil maniac's gonna do, kind of fits well the modus operandi of Activision.
Quite true.
Alright, second turbine attached.
Station Gamma.
Station, my bad.
Power core operational. Resetting security protocols.
Ha-ha! Excelsior! You did it, rookies! The system is resetting!
Alright, now it's time to actually enter properly into the whole paradoxology.
Copy that automatic and find Dr. Croid.
Alright then.
Well, we need to still defeat a bunch of enemies first, to the point where later we will get, an actual proper horde mode that I actually had to properly speed up. There are only 2 major instances where I speed up the footage, because otherwise I thought that the combat was just fine or resolved enough, but there are a couple of points where the game just stops dead, locks you in a place, not even with those, energy domes, just tells you in a specific place, defeat these enemies that are swarming you constantly in a kitchen sink before passing. Which, unfortunately, was the start at the time. We were talking about the Crash Mutant games, and that one also has that going for.
I'm over here.
So let's take the Clank.
Ready,
There.
get ready, Ratchet.
Warning. Critical failure
Aw.
detected.
I like jumping.
Poor poor Mr. Dinkles is still, you know, missing. I really hope he's okay.
Hey, I caught one.
I think by this point, okay, no, I have barely 300 pets. I'm almost actually done with the maximum quota that you need for getting all of the labs of Doctor Frumpus. Like I said, if you unfortunately die a couple of times in single player, that's actually, you know, the unfortunate best way of actually farming, collecting creatures.
Nice, more ammo.
If you're wondering, the black screen, I basically just, you know, cut away the process of actually, you know, upgrading stuff at this point, because, you know, that's superfluous. Alright, here we go, so let's move on properly.
Oh, yeah, for a second there I thought some advert was playing.
No, don't worry. Anyway, the kids are wondering about the track. It's actually one of the PlayStation SCWRM remixes, specifically from a Killzone track. The best way I can describe it is that imagine a bunch of, you know, people with evil masks, you know, and that are space Nazis, having to clap in rhythm while a giant robot is about to destroy you. That's kind of the vibe it gives.
Catchy beats.
Thankfully, there you go, the Guardian survived, thankfully. So, hopefully we'll manage to actually give us a hand in entering the Paradoxology room. Jesus Christ, I never give up.
One heck of a security budget.
Oh, speaking of which, it has a password. What?
Oh, come on! We're pals, I thought!
What do you think we're gonna use that for? Jeez.
Unless that's his passcode for everything, in which case he really needs to delete his search history.
Seriously. Hot single robots in your area. But, anyway, that's pretty much it for this part, so see you for the next, where we properly enter the whole Paradoxology and see what happens to Dr. Croid. See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.